Hey everyone. Well, we've already reached the first month of the year, and we're already finished with the first month of the year, so holy shit. So, now that January's done, I'm gonna do what I always do. Talk about every movie I saw in January and just give my short review of it. You know the rules. No, just movies I watch at home, and it's all that. Simple as that, isn't it? Well, let's go ahead and do this. Let's see what we got. So here's a little comedy about cops. Super Troopers is a comedy about a bunch of unprofessional, childish cops who investigate a crime. It's as simple as it sounds. I think what makes this movie super funny is the way the cops are. The entire movie revolves around a certain crime that these cops have to investigate on, and the whole idea with these cops having such a silly mindset, being all childish or unprofessional, kind of what makes the movies fun. You get a lot of fun come out of this comedy. You get a lot of the stuff come from, the way they act, the way they are kind of around these situations. It's all sorts of fun. Super Troopers is definitely a fun police comedy, and police comedies can be fun. I've seen some fun cop films and crime movies, and Super Troopers definitely falls as one of the more interesting ones, kind of in its own little way. So, yeah, cop comedy always were fun. Now everybody's been telling me, why haven't I seen this? Why haven't I seen this? Why haven't I seen this? Well, I've seen it now. John Wick, the most movie that so many people have been requesting me to do, along with all those films I obviously will never review. John Wick is definitely something that I enjoyed for the most part. We all know about John Wick. He's the big action dude who always is up for the case, always kills, and always is connected to his dog. I do like the way this movie kind of explores that, kind of makes his connection with a dog a lot more meaningful and less silly type. And again, there are still some things I feel are a little not as exciting as people may have said. But, and again, it's just for this one movie. I definitely could get myself into the franchise and maybe I'll be more invested. Just for now, this is my opinion on the first John Wick. I'll definitely make sure I check out the other John Wicks now that I finally have seen this one, but it's always a good start. I made my beginning, now it's got to reach to the point. So, finally, I watched a movie that I've been waiting to watch, and so there you go. This weird British comedy, well, not really much of a comedy, it's a sitcom. It's more of a dramatic type of crime film, weird kind. Train Spotting. It's about a bunch of British dudes, some of them having very bad addictions, being always getting high, always kind of having trouble. It's kind of the case. I remember this movie for having a young buzz cut Ewan McGregor. We all know Ewan McGregor as the all famous Obi-Wan Kenobi, but before he was Obi-Wan, he was a always high and very awkward person in this movie. It was mostly just weird. I don't know. Train Spotting was mostly a trippy film. It's just like all this trippy stuff happening. You got these characters tripping a lot. Got all these weird things happening. It's all sorts of stuff. It's probably one of the weirdest British movies I've ever seen. And I've seen some weird British films. The British always put out weird stuff. Now I'm not trying to be racist. It's just their movies can sometimes be weird, and Train Spotting is a perfect example. Another fun comedy. 22 Jump Street, the sequel to the hilarious 21 Jump Street, is honestly probably even more hilarious. 22 Jump Street, featuring these two, has a lot more comedy to it. It's like the first one revolved about them going to high school. This one's about them going to college. And all the fun college shenanigans we see happen in this movie are just as fun. And again, some are even funnier. A lot of fun stuff comes from this movie. The way these characters act, the way some of the new characters act, and just all the fun that comes from this movie. I think this movie really is a lot of fun. It's really isn't much else I can say. It's just a fun comedy sequel. It's one of the rare times where I would see a comedy sequel outdo the original. Because, low key, this movie was able to throw in a lot more funny moments. And they even had the end credits be nothing but funny. I won't spoil it because I do want people to enjoy these comedies, but the end credits is worth the time. Don't Most people would just turn the movie off, but in this case, you gotta watch the end credits because there's something to be fun about all things. An interesting little crime film, Basic Instinct, a very inappropriate sort of story of a crime between a sexy woman and a murder, is a decent crime. I mostly consider this to be sort of like a more seductive version of Fatal Attraction. It stars Michael Douglas and it's about more of a romantic crime story. It's more seductive than that. Many people who are aware of Basic Instinct know the iconic moment of the woman crossing her leg during an interrogation. But outside of that kind of okay sexy scene, the majority of the movie follows a decent crime story. Not a great one, I'll admit, but a majority of it turns out to be pretty fun. You definitely can understand it, but at the same time, I will admit, a lot of it still didn't make much sense to me. So, because a few aspects in the crime story were confusing and I couldn't buy, kind of just what kind of takes away this film. But still, it's somewhat sexy. I guess that's one thing people can get out of this movie. Here's another crime film, one that actually turned out pretty great. Chinatown, starring the always loved Jack Nicholson, is a crime story behind a murder, which, yeah, that seems basic, but there actually isn't much else I can say to this. The way the crime is set up almost feels perfect. I think what I love about this movie is how near perfect. Sorry. I love how near perfect the crime story is in this movie. It's a crime story that's probably has like so much development to it. There's so much that's developed with the story. There's so much you can get from how everything's set up. So this is probably one of the most perfect crime movies I've ever seen. And even though it's not one of the best, it has so much perfectness to it. It was hard to find a flaw in how it's set up. I mean, I guess some flaws in terms of the overall story, but for the main crime that we're focusing on, it felt perfect in every way. Another fun, great twist. Thelma and Louise, this fun road trip film, talks a story about two best friends who travel the world and ultimately become criminals during the case. Why do I love this movie? I mean, there's just so much to love. This is just something that has a lot of good, perfect stuff to it as well. The idea of these two just trying to enjoy a fun road trip as friends, and then it eventually escalates where they both become have more fun committing crimes and murdering people and all sorts of stuff. It really is the fun part. Seeing these two slowly develop from basic best friends to criminal types made for a lot of fun. And I also love the way this movie handles the climax when they're caught in the case. I can't spoil it because the way this movie ends is honestly, in my opinion, one of the best ways any movie like this can end. So that's kind of just what makes this movie so great. The way it goes through it and how it ends. It's a really great ending. I'm just going to say it right now. I won't spoil it, but perfect ending. A sequel to a underrated crime film, Red 2 is the sequel to Red, bringing back Bruce Willis and some of the other guys, and introducing some new people as well. This sequel kind of acts similarly to the first one, only I feel like the first one I honestly loved a lot because it had a lot to it. I mean, the first Red, in my opinion, was honestly a really great film. I actually really loved it, but mostly because of how unique its action was set up. It was an action film that set things up more unique than most basic action movies, I feel like. Red 2, I'll admit, kind of got a little more obvious, but yeah, still turned out fine. Still a good movie, just, not as unique and as exciting as the first one, but I guess I can not really complain too much because they did do a good job at adding some more excitement. So even though it's not anywhere better, it's still at least a good follow-up. A worthy successor, to say the least. Here's Pineapple Express, a comedy starring Seth and James. This fun film about these two guys who enjoy a nice, fun drug, but then just have to escape this area and just get involved in a lot of action and scary stuff from it. I know I had to process all that, but there's a lot to process in this comedy. The fun just comes from how random most of it is. Like the beginning is random, the middle is random, and the way this ends feels random. I mostly could just get out of this movie where explosions and funny interactions between the two. It was just so much fun to find this movie. It's definitely not probably I wouldn't say this would be the best Seth Rogen comedy, but it's definitely the most random and intense. I think this is probably like the most intense comedy that Seth Rogen would be in, so maybe I need to watch some more Rogen comedies, but for now, with how crazy ridiculous this movie is, I think Pineapple Express is worth a watch. If you like Seth Rogen comedies, then you definitely should enjoy Pineapple Express. And I think it's a fun comedy that's full of some fun stuff from it. Now, I know a lot of you are probably wondering why there are so little on this video. Well, truth be told, I had a lot going on this month. January is the month I be getting new things. I'm gonna be getting older, so more shit. I have my job and I have my college, so with that stuff happening, it's kind of taking me on a slower path with watch how many movies I watch. So, just kind of have to slow down on what I'm watching. But I've seen a lot of movies in my lifetime. I'm still trying to get more out because there's still more movies I want to see, but you know, in terms of me wanting to watch a movie so I can see enough, I think I've reached that path good. So, I'm just gonna keep watching more movies because there's still more movies I want to see. But even if there was a chance I wouldn't be able to, I have seen a lot, so much. Seriously, check out my IMDb, see how many movies I rated. I rated a lot, honestly. Probably not a lot compared to other big movie buffs, but compared to my growth of age, I think I've seen a lot.